We've been talking all week about what's been happening in Baltimore after the very strange death of Freddie Gray, a African-American 25-year-old who was arrested by police for having a switchblade and then ended up with his spinal cord 80% severed, coming out of emergency surgery in a coma and ultimately dying. Protests raging, mostly nonviolent, mostly peaceful, with some violence, looting, and all of the malicious criminality that tends to sort of become a hanger-on when we see these types of uprisings. We now have a new assertion, and some people are emailing me saying, David, this is the most insane explanation I've ever heard, which is that there is a sealed police document citing an anonymous witness suggesting that Freddie Gray severed his own spinal cord by deliberately hurting himself. This is belying credulity for many people. There's a prisoner who has reportedly shared the police transport van with Freddie Gray, who reportedly said to investigators that he could hear Gray banging against the walls of the vehicle and believed that he was intentionally trying to injure himself. This is according to a police document obtained by the Washington Post. That prisoner is currently in jail, did not actually see anything that Gray did, was separated from Gray by a metal partition, could not see him at all. His statement is in an application for a search warrant, which is sealed by the court, which was given to the Washington Post under the condition that the prisoner not be named because of concerns around his safety. The document in question was reportedly written by a Baltimore police investigator, and it is maybe the first glimpse at an explanation as to what happened. How is it that we had an arrest that, according to Baltimore police, involved no incident or no force and led to a man with an 80% severed spinal cord ultimately dying after entering a coma after emergency surgery? Does this change things at all? Could this drastically change things? The person in question didn't see it, and it's cited in a court document that is sealed, given under the condition that the person who saw it, supposedly, is never going to actually be named. I understand the skepticism, Lewis. A guy who was in the transport van severed his own spinal cord, and nobody actually saw it, and the document is a secret.
If this is true, it would change anything, but how do we prove that? I mean, first of all, it seems like sustaining the damage he sustained, that seems like a very difficult thing to do to yourself, especially when you're handcuffed.
It does seem very difficult to me. And the report is contradicted by what the Baltimore police commissioner said about the statement of the other prisoner in the van 6 days ago. Jane Miller from WBAL reported on Twitter, Baltimore Police Department Commissioner Anthony Batts says second prisoner in van with Freddie Gray reports no erratic driving by van driver and Gray mostly quiet. At the same time, there's a CBC article which contradicts the contradiction, which said that actually the other man in the van did report that there was some kicking and making noises all the way up until the point that the van arrived at the station. If that is true, then that's a new narrative, Lewis, which is actually the damage was not sustained in the van because the guy was clearly making noise all the way up until the van got to the station. The damage was suffered, I guess, from the time at which they got to the station and when Freddie Gray was brought inside. I mean, every single one of these stories, by definition, asserts a different scenario.
And I think it's still possible that perhaps he sustained this damage before even getting into the van, right?
Right, of course. It's possible that the damage was done by police or someone else, or we don't know how, and that it did happen before even getting into the van. No question about it.
So I don't think this is going to change anything because there's just not enough information. Nothing is certain. It's interesting to think about, but is this going to have any effect on what's happening in Baltimore? I doubt it.
And broad strokes, Lou, if I were to come to you and say, hey, Lewis, we don't have to worry about what happened to Eddie Gray because there's a sealed police document.
Freddie Gray.
Freddie Gray. What did I say?
Eddie Gray.
Freddie Gray. If I say, hey, don't worry about Freddie Gray, everything was on the up and up because a sealed police document citing an anonymous witness who didn't actually see anything says Freddie Gray injured himself. Would you be, oh, okay, that's fine, yeah.
Exactly. That's the problem. It seems pretty meaningless at the moment.